All right, what's going on, guys? We back at it like a crack addict. So, what are we doing today? What is the point of this live? So, on this live, I was just studying because I know I told you guys about 90 optimal days, a challenge that I created. And one of the things on that challenge was to listen to the audiobook of either Think and Grow Rich, which is this book right here. Think and Grow Rich, amazing book, phenomenal. I believe it's my favorite book. Or You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor. Now, what is You Were Born Rich? You Were Born Rich is a book that Bob Proctor, one of the greatest minds, I believe, he's a man that needs to be studied, right? If you want to learn more about your mind, because what he talks about is that, one second. What he talks about is that, you know, people see the mind as the brain. When you think about the mind, you think about the brain. You don't think about your actual mind. You don't have an image of your mind. So he studied the book Think and Grow Rich a bunch of times, from what I remember, like thousands of times, right? Over and over, over and over. And the reason why that's so powerful is because instead of what most people think, okay, let me go ahead and take a book and one second. Most people think, you know what? I'm going to take 100 books and I'm going to read them all one time. You have a surface level understanding of each topic, as opposed to studying a book over 100 times. You have a deep understanding of that topic. So let me go over here real quick. So we're going to study this together because I figured that's what I'm doing right now. I was going to be doing it for the next hour, so I might as well get on live and watch the seminar with you guys, because not only is it an audiobook, but I believe it originated as a seminar. So let's go ahead and watch the seminar. Stick around and let's learn something, guys. This is not all about, see, people see me as mature and all this stuff. And if you want to become someone who's more mature, you have to take life seriously. And how do you take life seriously? By trying to improve always, as opposed to wasting your time on playing video games and partying and doing all this other shit. I could be doing whatever right now. I could be out there at a club, even though it's a Wednesday, so obviously it's not that much. I could be out there at a bar. I could be doing drugs. I could be watching porn. I could be doing all these things, but I choose to study. And so should you. You should study. So let's get right into it, guys.
Ready to unlock your destiny. Oh, rich.
World famous athletes, astronauts, international personalities who have really made a difference in our world. You and I, we all started out exactly the same, just like that beautiful little baby that you just saw. We were born rich. Rich in potential. We have deep reservoirs of talent and ability within us. You're about to embark on one of the most exciting.
I've listened to this audiobook too many times to count, but I'm going to go ahead and give my takes on it, right? Because I've never done that. I've never done a live stream where I give my takes on it. So I figured it'd be pretty cool.
Journeys you could possibly get involved with. This program, You Were Born Rich, is the most effective personal development program in the world today. It's been designed specifically to help you realize all of your dreams, live the life that you really want to live. We're going to invite you into a live seminar so that you can experience the excitement, the high energy of actually being there. We have special guest Paul Hutsey on the program. You'll be meeting other personalities, people just like you and I, who have been involved in this program, and it's made a tremendous difference in their life. Consider this. Just like that baby, when you and I were born, we were natural-born risk takers. We had no limitations. We were free to step out and do everything we wanted to do. Now, some of the people...
Think about that. Think about what he just said. When you are a baby, you are a natural-born risk taker, meaning you get up, you don't know how to walk. Walking is a skill, right? You're born, and you don't even know how to walk. So that's the very first skill that you learn. But when you think about things like a child thinks about it, you can apply it to your adult life and you can see massive results. Because what does a child do, right? When you were a kid, how did you learn to walk? What you did? You tried to figure it out. You continuously try to figure it out. That's practice, right? Even though it took you many attempts, failure after failure. You got up, you kind of fucking stumbled and you fell over. You got up, you stumbled and you fell over. You got up, you stumbled, you fell over, until eventually you put one foot in front of the other, and maybe you can walk only a couple steps and then you fall. And then eventually you keep doing that. You keep repeating the process over and over. And then eventually what? Now we walk without even thinking about it, right? How did we learn to talk? You listened to people who knew how to talk. Your parents, the people around you. Over and over, right? You wouldn't be afraid to take the risk and look stupid, because when you're a child, you sound dumb, right? If you're an adult and you speak like a child, you're dumb, right? Speaking about goo goo gaga and all this shit. But at the end of the day, you weren't afraid to be embarrassed. You just tried without the fear of failing and looking stupid. And guess what? You mastered it, right? Well, maybe not mastered it, but you learned how to speak. And so when you apply that to things in your life, like let's say you're working a job and you want to learn how to sell, you want to learn how to market, you want to learn a skill that is valuable and can bring you income. A lot of people are scared. A lot of people are scared to start YouTube. Why? Because they're afraid to be embarrassed. They're afraid to fail. But when you were a kid, you didn't have that fear. You didn't have that fear of being embarrassed. You failed over and over again until you succeeded. And so if you take that mindset and you apply it to your adult life, and you're willing to fail over and over again without the fear of failure, like if you're going to go approach women without the fear of rejection, without the fear of failure, eventually, after doing it over and over again, you will master that skill. So think about that.
Well, that you are going to see interviewed have attended this seminar, some of them a number of times, most of them at least twice. The real benefit of having this seminar on the video is that you can stop the tape at any time and go back and play it over again. You see, reading and memorizing or just watching this really is not going to do you any good. You must understand and apply the ideas. Now, the exercise...
Understand and apply. Exactly. You understand something and then you apply it. Don't just consume and don't apply anything. Whatever you learn, you apply it. Even if you fail, you learn from your failures and then you succeed.
Book, your action planner that's in your program is vitally important. It's probably one of the most important elements in your entire Born Rich program. It's vitally important that as I suggest you get involved in an exercise, you take it and you really get involved. Stop the tape. Think of where you are and think of where you want to go. And complete the exercise. Don't put it off. Literally, wear this book out. Now, what I'd like you to do is come with me, mentally prepare yourself as we go into a live seminar. There's a seat saved just for you.
You are about to embark on the most exciting journey of your life. Bob Proctor Seminars proudly presents You Were Born Rich, the most dynamic personal development program of its kind in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, here to lead you through your journey into your own powerful potential, Mr. John Canary and Mr. Bob Proctor.
Yo, let me ask you a question, okay? Why do guys think that this is okay? You look like Benjamin Franklin. Like, dog, just Learn how to detach yourself. Let go of that hair, man. What is going on here? You would look better all completely bald. If I ever had this, which is very unlikely, but if I ever did, I'd just go bald. Fuck it. I'm rocking the bald look. I don't care. I'm not going to be walking out looking like this.
All right. How you feeling?
Wonderful.
Can we do better than that, Robert?
How you feeling?
I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Robert. Could all the people on this side of the room just remain silent for just a moment? Let's just try this side of the room, see who wins this contest, okay?
How you feeling?
Hold on, Robert. Whoa, my turn. Now, let's see whose side you're on here, all right? How do you feel? Sorry, old buddy.
Looks like you won.
We're going to get started with Robert.
All right. Well, I want to wish you a very warm welcome to our seminar here today. And we've got a special guest who is sitting at home. And we're inviting that person into our seminar.
That is you. You're the guest at home.
And they're going to experience everything you're going to experience. I know many of you have been through our seminars before. Some of you have never been through our seminars. But I think you'll find if you keep your mind wide open, just sit back and relax, you're going to find it a pretty interesting experience. I've often mentioned that we never give anybody a brain hernia with the information we use. It's all very simple, and it's very, very effective. You know, I've spent a long time studying the subject of why we do what we do and why we don't do some of the things that we'd really like to do. And I've come to the conclusion that the two main elements in a successful, fulfilled life is motivation and education. And if we get a proper balance of motivation and education, we're going to find that we're going to be led into some very wise decisions that'll inspire us into some intelligent action, and we will live a very, very fulfilled life. What I would like to suggest you do is flip to number page 2 in your action planner. Take your action planner and turn to page 2. You know, some time ago, John Canary gave me a little piece of literature about getting out of the comfort zone that was written by Bob Riggs in southern Florida. And there's some excellent information in here. Many of us are pretty comfortable in our life. We've got a reasonably good income. The mortgage is paid. There's food in the fridge. We've got a nice warm bed to sleep in. And everything seems to be floating along just fine. And you know, a person in that position could very easily think, why would I want to do anything to change this? Well, we have found that if your life is not going in one direction, it absolutely, by law, must be moving in another direction. And Riggs is talking about that here. He said many of us have established a comfort zone in our lives. We're just coasting along, taking the line of least resistance, just getting by. Now, he said this is a very common and understandable attitude. We've all worked hard to get to where we are, and it may seem a very good place to be. The problem with this is that once we stop reaching, stretching, seeking, and risking, we actually stop growing.
Once we stop reaching, stretching, seeking, and risking, we actually stop growing. Once you stay complacent, once you're okay with your situation, you're okay with the pay that you get, you're okay with your job, you're okay with everything in life, you stop growing. You gotta constantly be trying to take risk, push yourself into the unknown, meaning the unknown of whether you'll succeed or whether you'll fail. Push yourself into that and you will see growth.
Now, Riggs goes on to say that the comfort zone frame of mind is settling for what we are today. That may be fine today, but without continued growth, and I believe this is the key line coming up, we are now all we are ever going to be. Now, for me, that would be a fairly disturbing thought. He went on to say, if you're in a comfort zone, beware. The danger of a comfort zone is that it doesn't hurt, and it might even feel good. Many take that to mean it's a good place to be, but it's not. A comfort zone may be what is holding you back from real growth, real accomplishment and your potentially exciting and rewarding future. Now,
Your job, if you're comfortable with the income, you're comfortable with everything because you don't have to take a risk as an entrepreneur, because you're okay with the pay, you're not seeking to grow, then you're going to stay stuck in that position for the rest of your life. And it's comfortable when you don't have to take risk, when you know exactly what you're going to get paid in 2 weeks and all that. But at the end of the day, you're capped. Same thing with your body. If you're out of shape, you're fat, it's not comfortable to diet. It's not comfortable to work out every day. But do you want to be a lower version of yourself, or do you want to be a higher version of yourself?
now, I've mentioned if we're not going in one direction, we must by law be going in another direction. You're either creating or you're disintegrating. Whenever we hear a person say, I like it just the way it is, we know that person is advertising their ignorance of a very basic law of life, because absolutely nothing stays the way it is. Now, if you'll take a look at the top of page 2, there is a concept there by Sidney Herbert Wood, and it's the test of an educated person. I think many of us have had a false concept programmed into our mind with respect to education. We, I think, have been raised to believe that education is going to school for a certain number of years and be able to correctly answer a series of questions. But you know, many people will go to school all their life and be able to correctly answer the questions, but then when it comes to getting out into the marketplace and really making it happen, they just don't know how to compete. Many are withdrawn. They don't even feel comfortable meeting or greeting a stranger. Well, Wood said the test of an educated person is, can I entertain a new idea? Now, I think you know, and I know, that if we're going to improve, we have to have a very open mind. I once heard that an open mind was being prepared to throw away some of our most cherished beliefs when a better idea comes along. Now, you'll find that the vast majority of people seems to back into the future, dragging all of their old experience with them. When they're confronted with a new idea, they ask, does it fit? If it doesn't, then they say it's wrong. Now, what we want to do is ask ourselves, would this new idea improve the quality of my life, or would it get me going in the other direction? Can I entertain a new idea? Today and tomorrow, you're going to be asked to entertain many new ideas, but every one of the ideas that we're going to share with you are going to be positive, they're going to be creative, they're going to be constructive, and they'll definitely improve the quality of your life. Then we see the second one, can I entertain another person? Now, there's many people that would feel totally uncomfortable walking up to a stranger and just saying, hi, how are you today? Pleased to meet you, Jan. Now, do you know some people, when it comes to meeting a person, their head is down, their hand is wet, they're shaking inside, their heart is pounding, and they only do it because they really have to. They would just as soon pull away from the new person. Now, that individual has not learned very much, if anything, about themselves, because we should feel totally comfortable meeting anyone, anywhere, at any time.
That's true. And at one point in my life, I didn't really know myself. So I wasn't very comfortable. And naturally, I'm a more introverted person. So I wasn't really comfortable, just greeting strangers and doing all that stuff. But how did I do it? I took time learning who I am. Once you know who you are, you have no problem going out into the world and shaking someone's hand and introducing yourself to this guy, to a woman, to whatever the case may be. Why? Because the fundamental is that you don't care about what people think, because you love yourself and you respect yourself. So you're confident in going up to anyone and introducing yourself, having a conversation, because you believe in yourself. That's the fundamental.
And then he asks, can I entertain myself? Well, many people are not able to entertain themselves. I spent half my life not being able to entertain myself. I always had to be around someone else. It was always, come on, let's have a party. I absolutely hated being alone. And that was because I really didn't like myself. Now, I have found through studying the ideas that we're going to cover here over the next couple of days, we can develop into very interesting and reasoning companions. Most of the time that we live, we do spend with ourselves. And you're going to find that some of the very best conversations you ever have are going to be with yourself. I get so excited about some of mine, I talk right out loud. That draws strange look from people from time to time.
If you're comfortable making yourself laugh, if you're comfortable having a good time with yourself when you're all alone, guess what? People are going to feed off that energy, because if you don't like being with yourself, if you can't make yourself laugh, if you're nervous when you're by yourself and all this stuff, people are going to feed off that too. How do you expect to hold a conversation with someone, be entertaining, if you can't even entertain yourself?
But you get such great ideas going in your mind that you just can't help it. Now, here in the first paragraph, we say that this program, You Were Born Rich, is based on the premise that you have rich resources lying dormant within you. I have heard many people laugh when they take a look at our program or take a look at the title of the book, Born Rich. You see, they think that means that you've been born into great wealth. Some people are, but some people are not. But everyone, without exception, has been born with tremendous resources lying within them. We've got deep reservoirs of talent and ability. And through following right rules and natural laws, we're going to find that we can draw that potential to the surface, and we can bring it to bear, and it will cause the manifestation of prosperity in our material world. Now, in almost all the seminars that either John or myself does, we take and we put an R here in the board. Now, what I would like to suggest you do is you let that R represent the results that you're getting in your life. Now, there's 3 areas that we're going to suggest that you focus on. One is happiness, one is health, and another one is material wealth. Now, when I first started to study this material, I was not happy, I was not healthy, and I definitely was not wealthy. I had a chap sit down with me, and he saw something in me that I obviously wasn't capable of seeing in myself. His name was Raymond Stanford, Raymond Douglas Stanford. In fact, I named my son after him, Raymond Douglas Proctor. And Ray looked at me and he said, Bob, let this here represent results that you're getting in your life. Then he asked me if I thought he was a happy person. And I said, yeah, thought he was. He said, have you ever seen me sick? And I had to admit I hadn't. He said, have you ever seen me when I was broke? And again, I had to admit I hadn't. Well, he proceeded to tell me that he thought I was one of the most miserable people he had ever met. Well, and you know, it was true. I was an unhappy human being. He said, you're always sick. Now, I didn't have a terminal illness, but I always had a headache or a cold or a backache or something. And he pointed at the area of money. He said, you're always broke. He said, you're forever trying to hit somebody up for a couple of dollars for gas. Now, if I was to put this in proper perspective for you, I was earning $4,000 a year at the time, and I owed $6,000. So do you see, I wasn't really interested in being happy or healthy at the time. I figured if I could just get this money problem straightened out, everything was going to be great. He proceeded to tell me that there were certain laws governing happiness, and if you follow them, you can just keep getting happier and happier. That sounded a little foreign to me, but that was his opinion. And he pointed out that you and I have an ingenious system built within us to keep our body in excellent working order. And then when he talked about the area of money, he said, you know, he said there's exact laws governing wealth. And he pointed out, he said, this stuff cannot talk, but it can hear. And he said, if you call it, it'll come. Well, I can assure you, I was ready to yell at the top of my lungs. I mean, if there was anything I wanted, it was some money. I figured it would take the heat off for a little while. Ray suggested that I go out and buy this book. It's Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich, baby.
And you know, he said there's a...
Everyone should get this book. You should at least read it once in your life. I believe that it will change your mind. I got this book when I was probably like 18 or 19, so it's been a while. It's my favorite book.
Secret in this book. And he said, if you can find the secret in the book, you can have anything you seriously want. Now, you take a person that's unhappy, not very healthy, is in debt, you'd have a difficult time accepting that. I was 26, and I just couldn't accept the idea. But as Ray...
The secret is to visualize what it is that you want, write it on a card, read that card over and over and over and over until it's in your subconscious mind that you already have what it is that you want. So visualize what it is that you want.
He said, your way's not working, why don't you try his? And that's what I'd like to suggest to you today. If you're not getting the results you want, your way obviously isn't working, why don't you try ours? Now, I often mention that John and I have got license to brag about every idea we use because none of them are ours. We don't claim that we've originated these ideas. In fact, we openly admit we haven't. We've just gathered them.
By the way, for those of you who want to watch this, just type in "You Were Born Rich" seminar.
From books here and seminars there and great teachers all over the world. And what we've done is put them together in an organized, coherent manner. So if your way is not giving you the results you want, I would suggest that you take a real serious look at these ideas. Now, I looked for the secret and I couldn't find it, but I found in one place here, he said a peculiar thing about this secret is that those who once acquire it and use it find themselves literally swept on to success with but little effort, and they never again submit to failure. What a marvelous promise. He said, if you doubt this, study the names of those who have used it, wherever they've been mentioned. Check their records for yourself, and you'll be convinced. Now, he lists upwards of 100 names here. He's got Henry Ford, William Wrigley, James J. Hill, George Eastman, Theodore Roosevelt. He goes on here, John D. Rockefeller, Thomas Edison, Luther Burbank, Woodrow Wilson. How could I relate to any of those people? I couldn't relate to them. But you see, in that first part, he said, check their names or check their records wherever they've been mentioned. So I did that. And I got out books on Edison, and I got books on Rockefeller, and I got books on Woodrow Wilson, and all the great people that he had mentioned here. And you know what I found? I found they were no different than you. They were no different than me. Many of them had very little formal education, which made me feel fairly comfortable because I didn't either. Many of them had very, very rough roads to start on.
This is what I tell you guys, that if you find someone who has what you want in life, and you figure out and you retrace the steps of what they did to get there, then you can do it too. Because at the end of the day, they are human just like you. They wake up just like you. They go to sleep just like you. They take a shit just like you. They eat. So at the end of the day, if they can do it, so can you. I know it's a simple message, but it's true.
But I found out we're essentially all the same. Do you know what was different? The results they were getting. And as I studied on here further, in his chapter on persistence, and he mentions that persistence to the quality or to the character of the human being is like what carbon is to steel. He said the only thing that he could find in Edison or Ford that he never found in everyone else was persistence. They'd get a hold of an idea and they'd stick with that idea. And I look back in my own life and I never did that. I'd try something a couple of times, and if it was rough, I quit. I'd have people saying, oh, Bob, why don't you just get...
And think about this, what he just said, that persistence is what it takes. If you think that you don't have the persistence within you, ask yourself this: can you walk? Can you talk? Because if you can, at one point in your life, you were persistent enough to be able to learn how to walk and to be able to learn how to talk. Because that shit did not come easy. You tried over and over again. You tried over and over again. You failed. You fell down. You got back up, and eventually you learned. But you remain persistent. So that means that you have it within you.
Give it up. I'd say, yeah, you're right, and I would. Now, you see, the people I was mixing with, they were losing too. I never stuck at anything. So I made up my mind, if I ever found this secret, I'd work it right until I died. Now, I did find the secret. It was in 100 different places in the book, and it was simply sit down, decide what you want, write it on a card, carry the card in your pocket, and read it as often as possible every day. Now, keep in mind, I was earning $4,000, I owed $6,000. I was sitting in a fire hall at the time, and I wrote on the card that I was going to have in my possession by New Year's Day of 1970, $25,000. Now, I wrote that on the card in 1960. You know, the idea of having $25,000, it was sort of a fantasy. I don't think there was $25,000 in the whole fire hall at the time. Now, I wrote that in the card in 1960. Keep in mind, I gave myself a decade to pull this deal off. I really didn't believe it was going to happen. But I found out a couple of things. I found if you write a lie on a card and you read it often enough, you're going to start to believe it. And you know, William James, back around the turn of the century.
Same thing I told you guys. If you want to be confident, at first you might have to act like you're confident. Even if people think you're actually confident and deep down inside you know you're not, you're going to have to do that for a while until you start to believe it. And then you start to see, wow, if you carry yourself like someone who has confidence or someone who already has what it is that they want, eventually you will have that thing.
Century, he said, believe, and your belief will actually create the fact. Well, I did what he suggested. I read this card every day. I'd carry it around and I'd just keep reading it. And one day, one of the guys in the fire hall got a hold of it, and they pulled the card away and they passed it all around. Everybody started to laugh. Proctor's going to get rich. I had a chap in a seminar the other day that he said the same thing had happened to him. He was in a seminar and he got one of these gold cards, and they passed it around at work, and he said, everybody laughed at me, but he said, I'm winning. Now, I didn't read the card in front of anyone any longer, but I kept reading it. I'd go to the bathroom, and I'd sit in the toilet and lock the door, and I'd read the card. Or I'd be driving down the street, and I'd come to a traffic light, and I'd haul the card out, and I'd read it. Now, something very funny happened to me. 1 year later, I was earning $175,000 a year.
That's a $171,000 difference.
Now, that's an enormous change, and it went well beyond $1 million in a year. Now, that was not supposed to happen. See, everything I'd been taught since I was a little boy indicated that if you don't go to school, you can't win. If you don't have business experience, you can't win. I had not gone to school. My second month in high school, they asked me to leave. I'll never forget how happy I was when they made that decision. As I look back, they were probably much happier than I was when they made that decision. But here I was, I was 16, I had very little knowledge, I had absolutely no skills, and at the very best, my attitude was poor. What chance did I have? I really didn't have any, but I didn't know that. And so I just bummed around from job to job, in and out of the Navy, in and out of factories, in and out of bars, mostly in and out of bars, until I was 26. Here I was at 26 when Ray sat down with me. I had very little knowledge, absolutely no skills, and my attitude had not improved greatly. But he introduced me to this idea, and I found that it doesn't matter what's happened in the past. You may not have a colorful background, and maybe you have. You may not have a lot of formal education, and maybe you have. But it really doesn't matter if you've got a goal and you're willing to stick to it and study the laws, you're going to find out that you can win. Now, that was like an emotional impact, and I had to find out what happened to me. And so I made up my mind that someone had either written in a book or they were talking about it. And I made up my mind I'd read every book that was ever written if I had to. And I'm going to tell you, I have one of the finest libraries on personal development, psychology, the area of the mind that you're going to find anywhere. And I don't just mean library of books, I mean library of tapes and records. And I would travel anywhere in the world that I heard of a good seminar to find out more about myself. Find out more about you. Find out what makes us tick. And you know a strange thing?
A lot of these seminars are free out there, guys. Like, don't consume bullshit online. There's so many good seminars from back in the days, like your grandma's days, like this. Bob Proctor, Tom Hopkins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy. People like this who studied the mind. Study these people.
Found as I studied me, I understood you better, because we are essentially all the same. And that's just sort of the way it works. This seminar is nothing but the culmination of all that study. But it wasn't just study, it was a lot of practice, a lot of painstaking study, and an awful lot of experience. And John and I have seen great changes take place in our own life, but better still, we've seen phenomenal changes take place in the lives of the thousands and countless thousands of people that have studied these seminars. We've done these seminars as far away as Takapuna, New Zealand. We've done them all over the United States, every state in the United States. And we've done them all across Canada. People in England are studying this right now. As a matter of fact, this book, Born Rich, is being read in Russia right now. That's a fair distance away from here, and it's a lot different philosophy than most people in that country are used to. Now, we point out here that material wealth is a normal and a natural state for you to live in. Intellectual comprehension.
I wonder if all the people in this video are still alive or if they're dead. I know, rest in peace to Bob Proctor, but I wonder how old.
Come down to the third paragraph on page 2. It's vitally important. Intellectual comprehension of this program is not difficult. In a relatively short period of time, you will be prepared to correctly answer a battery of questions about this Born Rich program. If you read it, memorize it, you could answer almost any question in it. But that doesn't mean that you're going to win. You could very quickly say, I know. Someone mentioned something.
I know.
We'll say, I know. I know somebody that says that all the time. Doesn't matter what you say to her. Vera says, I know.
I've known people like that. I know. It's like, all right, then why aren't you doing it?
All right. Now, knowing and doing are poles apart.
Yep.
And I point out in 2 or 3 places in the book that reading and memorizing are not going to make you successful. It's the understanding and then the application of wise thoughts that count. You must understand the idea and you must go out and act on the idea regardless of how much your old program wants to hold you back. You've got to bust out of that shell and do the thing that you've got to do. Now, John Ruskin here gives us an excellent concept on education. He said, education does not mean teaching people what they do not know. It means teaching them, showing them, leading them to behave as they do not behave. Now, the compensation that you're going to receive for following the ideas that you're going to be studying for the next couple of days is absolutely incredible. I could do nothing but keep expressing great ideas when I talk about the good that can come to you. You can do anything you want. You can have anything you want by following these ideas. Now, I choose to believe that every one of you wants something. Way down deep inside of you is a dream. And every now and then that dream floats to the surface of your conscious mind. And when it does, you quickly push it out and you say, I can't do that. Now, the truth is you can, you just don't know how. And if you can get that straight in your mind, I'm going to tell you.
That's right. If you think you can't quit porn, you can't quit masturbating, you can't quit drugs, you just don't know how. If you think you can't lose weight, you don't know how. If you think you can't sell, you don't know how. It's not a matter of can or cannot, right? Because if you go back to one of my shorts and you watch when I was trying to learn the muscle up, I said I can't do the muscle up right now. And then I corrected myself, because what you're saying with your mouth is powerful, because your mind will start to adopt that. So if I said that and I did not correct myself, then I would have believed that. So the fact, you can go watch it right now, one of my muscle up videos, like a transformation. The fact that I say I can't do this, I corrected myself to say I can do it. I just need to figure out how. That's it.
You busted out. Now, Vernon Howard one time pointed out in a magnificent book, Mystic Path to Cosmic Power, you cannot escape from a prison if you don't know you're in one. You cannot escape from a prison if you don't know you're in one. Well, I think we're all in one to some degree. But that dream you've got that comes to your mind, I would suggest you look at it real carefully. I was given a cassette tape by a gentleman in a seminar that we were conducting a couple of years ago, and it was a copy of a speech made by a minister out of Minneapolis. And there were a couple of lines in that tape that were absolutely incredible. He said the saddest thing when he's officiating at a funeral is not the death of the body, but the death of all the dreams. It's that house you were going to build and never built. Maybe that car you were going to get, never got. That trip you were going to take and never took.
All the things you knew you should have done. When you're on that deathbed, you're going to be thinking back. You're going to say, damn, I wish I took those risks. Because in that very moment, you don't have the opportunity to take the risk. You're done. Your life's over. Now that you're alive, your life has the opportunity to take risks, to do whatever it is that you need to do to make it happen.
The business you were going to start and build, but never did. Well, the saddest thing is not the death of the body, but it is the death of all the dreams. We've got to do what's inside of us. Let's not go to the grave with the music still in us. Now, as we go through this seminar, John's coming on in a minute to lead you through the part about proper use of the seminar. But as we go through it, understand this. If you do not direct all of the information you're going to hear towards a specific end, the information will probably be rendered useless. So what I would suggest you do, as John's coming up here, just jot down in shorthand, in your book, anywhere on a blank space, that's something that you want. And look at the quote on the bottom of page 2. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, do the thing and you'll get the energy to do the thing. Do the thing and you'll get the energy to do the thing.
Yeah, like, you know, when you're not feeling like cleaning your room, or you've been putting off that one thing for so long, and then suddenly you do it and you realize how simple it is. Like, you've been putting off cleaning your room for so long, and then you get up and you do it and you say, this shit was easy. Why have I been putting this off for so long?
The thing. Don't wait. Start right now, whether you're ready or not. Just say, I'm going after it, I'm going to get it, and your present circumstances got nothing to do with where you're going. Later on in the book here, you're going to find that there's a quote by a...
Exactly. Your present circumstance has nothing to do with where it is that you're going. That's why I can't respect someone who chooses to stay in a pit, who chooses to stay in a rut, who chooses to stay out of shape and have a shitty mindset. I can't respect that. What I can respect is someone who's in that position but is ready to change, because it's not about your current circumstance. It's about being ready to change it all.
magnificent author. He said, your circumstances may be uncongenial right now, but they will not long remain so if you perceive an ideal and strive to reach it. Now think of that. You may not have much money. Your social life may be in a bit of a chaotic state. Maybe your business isn't going the way you'd really want it to go. He said, your circumstances may be uncongenial, but they will not long remain so if you perceive an ideal and strive to reach it. Now, flip over to the next page, and I'm going to invite John back on to lead you through how to get the proper use out of this program. And I don't suppose there's a better guy that I know to be able to do that, because I watched John start, and there's a story of him in Born Rich. I watched John start from ground zero and just keep making headway. John Canary learned how to use the ideas in this program
Okay, John,
so
look
well
at John,
that he's a
that
very
stylish
competent
ass
teacher
fit.
of the ideas today.
With that toupee.
What I left the seminar with was a desire to want to know more. There was something about it that that stimulated a desire within me of all the things I ever wanted to do, but no one ever told me that I could do it. And I believe when I walked away from there, I felt very comfortable, at least with the idea that, hey, there is something about me that if I learned to use it properly, that I could actually go out and achieve it. Even though I didn't know how, I believe that that was a starting point.
If you're socially awkward, if you don't know how to speak, at one point in my life, my social skills were lacking. But guess what? That's something that you have within you, that if you master and if you achieve a higher potential, your life will transform. Like I've developed my ability to speak, my ability to communicate effectively, and it's transformed my life. I don't work a job anymore. I have a YouTube channel. I can comfortably speak to anyone. I can approach any woman and talk to her. I don't care how bad she is. Like, some of you guys are afraid to go ahead and approach the baddest women. Why? Because you don't know how to speak. But that's something that's within you. If you choose to start developing it today, one day you can master it, and it'll bring you great value.
So that was the beginning for me, and what I got most out of that particular seminar. I believe where we went from there is, at that time there was only perhaps a half day to a one-day seminar, and it was structured around the Earl Nightingale material, of course, and it wasn't as, I guess you could say, as prolific as it is today, although it was as energetic as it was today, probably even more so. But today there seems to be a smoother flow, a more structured presentation, a more organized presentation in a way that an individual can actually take it and use a step-by-step methodical approach to actually working with their creative process. At that time it was more of, why not take a look at yourself and try to recognize that there's potential within you, and that if you set a goal, which I did at that time, and sitting in the front row of the seminar, just about that time, I took something called a goal card, which it wasn't as beautiful as it is today. It wasn't as organized or arranged as it is today. But that was back in around 1970, 71, in that period of time. And I remember Bob mentioning, if you take a card, write something on it that you want to do. And if you read it every day and do the
And you write it as if it already happened. So if you, let's say you want to be more confident, write down on the card, I am confident. If you want a nice house, write down on the card, I own this house. Write it in detail. If you want a girlfriend, write it in detail. I'm so glad that I have a girlfriend that is Latina. Whatever the case may be, you describe her in detail and act as if you already have it. Write it down, read it over and over again. Eventually, you'll start pushing your life in that direction and manifest that reality.
the best you can every day, you're going to achieve it. Now, I don't know how many people that day, wrote something on a card, but I would say most of them were actually writing something out. But I think it had a profound impact on me to the point that I wrote down that I was going to be doing what Proctor was doing. And even more importantly, that I was going to be doing it with him. Now, I'm sure that I talked to him on a number of occasions that particular day, but I was just like anyone else sitting in the audience. He probably heard that story from a number of people or related goals, something of that nature. But I knew that I was going to, I didn't know how. So wherever he was running a program, because I identified...
He knew he was going to, but he didn't know how. See, that's powerful, because once you can set in your mind that you know exactly where you're going to go and what it is you want to do, then all you got to figure out is the how. How are you going to get there? That's it.
So much with the way that he explained it. There were so many people talking about how to in their seminar.
And the how is becoming the person who can deal with that, the person who can handle that, strengthening yourself. That is the how. Becoming the man, the who.
And I was exposed to that. I was in training courses with respect to the product that I was selling at that time. But he was getting to a point where it was kind of like all of a sudden you could see that you could do it, even though there was no special methodical method to doing it. So when I walked out of there that day with a 3x5 card with something written on it to the effect that I was going to be doing this program like he was doing it and with him, I was wondering what would happen if I had told a lot of people that. Well, I didn't bother telling anybody, but I kept going back to every seminar that was being conducted, no matter where it was, if it was in Chicago, in Toronto.
I'm about to end this soon because I still got to make a YouTube video. I still got to make a reel and a short. Still got to cook and then get some rest so that I can wake up early.
If it was in London, if it was in Kingston or Montreal.
Couple more minutes.
That's where
And then we'll continue this on another live. There's a lot of these, okay?
I would end up. And I think that, the fact that I was available so much and in every seminar, that Proctor began to wonder, who is this guy? And before long, he started calling me, and we started to develop pretty good relationship, pretty good friendship. The rest of that is history, of course. I've worked with every major company, people from every walk
The goal and the date by which you're going to have it.
of life, from professional hockey teams, professional baseball teams, many major corporations, and have not regretted one day of it, as tough as it's been.
So let's give John a real warm welcome as he come on and lead you through that.
Anytime I start a seminar like this, I always like to start with the balls. And one of the reasons that I use this is because it's had such a dramatic impact on my own life. And I knew that this worked in a physical sense as I just took a look and stared at it, but I wasn't quite sure how it worked in every other sense. And I know many people that when they get an understanding of how this works, that if you put a little bit into life, you're only going to get a little bit out of life.
But if you put a lot.
In other words, if you want to spend a lot of time complaining about what's wrong in life.
Who's ready for pizza?
Oh,
Welcome to
actually,
Homemade
I am,
Pizza.
buddy.
I'm Martin
The
Phillip.
very
I'm a
first time
baker and author.
has actually caught
That's
my
just
eye.
about the only thing you're ever going to find in your life.
Bro is playing with balls. Come on, dog. No Diddy.
I like to put it another way. If you want to look at the scientific side of things, they'll say that for every action, there is an equal reaction in the opposite direction. If you want to go over to the other side to see what the theologian has to say or the philosophers, they'll tell you exactly the same thing. They'll say that as ye sow, so shall ye reap. And then there's a way that I kind of like to use it. And it works this way. That the only thing that can flow into your life or mine, whether it be in a financial sense, whether it be in your personal life,
So,
whether it be in your family life, one thing is for certain. That the only thing that can flow into your life is based on what's flowing out of your life. I know that any time that I have this sitting at home, and some of my son's buddies will come by, he'll always take them over. They'll say, "What's this?" And he'll take it and he'll say, well, you see, what this means, if you put a little bit in, you get a little bit out. But if you put a whole lot in, you get a whole lot out. That's just the way it works. Now, you see, we can make what is called a conscious choice here today.
All right, 35 minutes in. I'm going to stop it right here. The balls. Hey, yo, why couldn't they change that name to something else? Talking about the balls. All right, 35 minutes in. I'm going to stop it right here. I'm going to get off. I'm going to make a YouTube video. So we're going to continue this. We're going to continue studying this seminar because, like I said, for the 90 optimal days, that's what we got to do. And I'm going to leave the link down below for my website. Go ahead and check it out, and you can book a call so we can help you become the optimal man that you deserve to be. Help you lose 45 pounds, transform your life in a matter of 8 weeks. I'll get you right. I'll formulate a plan for you as far as workouts, as far as macros, and all of that, and we'll get you right. So go ahead and click the link, and that's the video for today. Well, that's the live stream for today. The video is coming up right now. See you soon.